Let's start with centering our head. To center our head, we're first going to work on our tongue. So our tongue is actually directly connected to a bone that's right here where your head balances. So your tongue is the only muscle in your body that's not connected to anything. So where it's placed actually affects a lot how your neck tension is, how your breathing is. So let's work on the tongue first. Very simple exercise to compare two positions of the tongue. One is we're going to press the tongue down on our lower jaw. So you're going to take your tongue and you're just going to press it down. It's hard to demonstrate because it's, you're going to do this with your mouth closed. But let's just press your tongue into your lower jaw and take a few breaths there. And see how that feels. So you're going to take your breaths through your nose first and see if how your air intake is, how it feels to breathe, how your neck tension is, how your head is it loose, does it feel nice? You're going to try a few more breaths and then you're going to try to breathe through your mouth. So with your tongue on your pressed down on your lower jaw, you're going to breathe into your mouth. And you can actually kind of open your mouth at this point. And it's just, we're doing this for comparison. So we're kind of giving our body two options to compare what feels better. So the other option is for your tongue to be pressed into the roof of your mouth. So you're going to press your tongue to the top jaw, to the roof of your mouth. But don't think about it as too much like pressing. It's not. It's resting up instead of down. Okay. So you might be lightly touching the back of your teeth. You might be pressing into the roof of your mouth. Whatever feels good. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to try a few breaths through our nose, and we're going to compare. How does that feel now? Are you getting more air in? Does it feel like your neck is a little bit more loose? Does it feel like your head is a little bit easier feeling at the base? And then we'll try to breathe through the mouth. So that's our final comparison. So with the tongue pressed on the roof of your mouth, you're going to try to breathe through your mouth. And that's pretty tough, right? So hopefully you've recognized the difference that, obviously the tongue resting on the bottom jaw is a lot easier to breathe through your mouth than when it's resting at the upper jaw, right? At the top of your mouth. So breathing through your nose probably feels a bit easier when the tongue is resting at the roof of your mouth, and breathing through your mouth feels easier when the tongue is on the lower jaw. So this is an interesting comparison because the tongue's resting position is actually on the top of your mouth, on the roof of your mouth. And that's where it's optimizing for breathing through your nose. And when you breathe through your nose, for the most part, that's the optimal way to breathe. Unless, you're going on a sprint, you're needing to take in a lot more air, that's when you'll start breathing through your mouth as well. But ultimately, throughout the day, you're probably breathing through your nose more. So having the tongue rest at the roof of your mouth is going to contribute to less tension throughout your body because it's optimizing your position for breathing. So having said that, I want you to convince yourself of that as well by comparing different positions of the tongue in your mouth and what feels easier to breathe, what feels easier on your neck, what contributes to less tension overall. I want you to believe that. I don't want you to take my word for it. So that's a really important piece of all of these movement experiments we'll be doing together. Next, we're going to so hopefully you've convinced yourself that tongue resting on the roof of your mouth contributes to easier breathing through your nose and kind of lets you work on your neck tension, maybe release some neck tension. So let's keep the tongue on the roof of our mouth throughout. So having the tongue resting at the roof of your mouth, we're now going to take a few tilts of the head side to side. So what we're going to do now is we're going to center our head. So just make it super loose and kind of like your ears going towards your shoulder and then the other side. And just start moving your head side to side. So an interesting phenomenon is that our body is going to do whatever it takes to keep our eyes level. So you'll find it really easy to figure out where it is that your head is level. So if you're here, you're easily feeling that your head is off center, right? So on the other side, your head is off center. So let's start reducing the amount that you move your head, and let's make it super, super small and subtle. So just reduce the tilts, the amplitude of the tilts here, and see if you can find the center point. So making it smaller and smaller until you kind of feel an equilibrium. And you kind of feel like, okay, this seems to be the balance point. And it literally is the balance point, and you probably feel it a little bit in the back of your neck. And you're gonna kind of, again, convince yourselves that if I tilt it slightly here, my eyes are off center, I feel a difference, right? Like your neck here is stretched, here is tightened, right? Other side. So you're gonna find that balance point. So this one was easy. Now we're gonna do the same exact thing, but we're gonna tilt our head forward and back. So tilting our head forward and back. And I'll demonstrate from the side because I don't want you guys to collapse in your neck. I want you guys to find a way to keep the neck long, and then you're gonna go down and up, trying to keep this part of the neck long, and you're just tilting almost at this area of your neck, right? So kind of like this point right here. So we're gonna do some of these tilts, make them big at first, and then you're gonna find a smaller and smaller amplitude of these head tilts going back and forth. So kind of going back and forth, and find a smaller and smaller amplitude until you again find the balance point. So finding the balance point now. So it's kind of like now I'm looking up at the sky. It's not very easy for me to hold my head here. And then here I'm looking down, and it's kind of tensing the front of my neck. So again, convincing yourself, this is all up to you, right? Where your head rests. I want you to find what feels good, right? And what feels comfortable and what feels centered, and I'm looking straight ahead and my head feels nice and centered. So now we've done it side to side and back and forward. And hopefully you felt a little bit of kind of like a release in the back of your head, just this little point right here, having kind of gone through all the ranges of motion of the neck and having connected with the tongue. So again, tongue on the roof of the mouth, and you're balancing back and forward, and you find that balance point. So now, the final piece of the puzzle, we're gonna find the top of our head. The top of our head, it's actually not straightforward to find. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our palm and we're gonna press into various parts of the head. So you're gonna take first the palm, and you're gonna press your forehead into it, and you'll see where does it tense. So for me, it tenses here, and of course I feel a tension here. I'm gonna move my my palm a little bit higher and keep pressing and keep pressing. And so when I start going kind of a little bit higher, so I'm feeling where's the tension going, right? At some point you're gonna feel a more centered way around your neck. So you're gonna kind of feel a more centered tension. And then try the back of your head. So the back of your head, of course, you're gonna feel a tension back here and nothing here. And so you kind of can find and almost triangulate the location of the top of your head. The top of your head is likely going to be on that spot where your hair spirals out. That's likely the top of your head. But I want you again to convince yourself of that, because when you press into it, this part feels really easy. So this is the best feeling, sort of when you press your palm down and your head into your palm, you're feeling a centered neck. Of course, yes, we have our hand up, everything, but I want you guys to feel a difference. If I press here, I'm kind of like, one-sided. If I press here, I'm more on the front. If I press on this spot right here where my hair spirals, kind of finding that spot, this is like a balance point. So I'm kind of finding this and pressing up into it. And hopefully now you feel a balance of the front and back neck muscles. And you have now, if you take your palm away, a way to press your head up into the ceiling, into the sky, and you have kind of a way to center your head now and send it upward. So this is just a way for us to establish posture by trying a few positions and finding where does it feel best. And hopefully, again, you've convinced yourselves that if you press into the top of your head, you're finding this centered position for your neck to hold your very heavy head, relatively speaking, right? So we're pressing into the top of the head, and then you can actually take some hairs on the top of the head and kind of pull, and it'll like reinforce that positioning, that long neck, and then you kind of got this nice centered head and a long neck in the back and in the front, and you have a way to then, when somebody says, you know, head high, neck long, this is what they mean, right? So this is what they mean when they say, you know, good posture. This is where your head now is centered and is actually the easiest place for you to maintain a nice strong posture using your neck muscles when they're balanced, right? So this exercise hopefully helps you find that spot anytime you're doing any exercise, or maybe you're out for a walk and you're thinking about your posture. This is kind of like a mental checklist that you can go through. Tongue at the roof of the mouth, head centered back and forth, side to side. And it's so subtle, like no one has to know you're doing this. And then just reminding yourself to press into the top of the head, and then all of a sudden your head is held high, and it's super easy, and your neck is less tense, which is my goal here.